Hello everyone, welcome to our Cloud and Cloud First Mini Conference. Thank you all for joining us today. Okay, so I hope you are enjoying all the sessions related to DevOps and the cloud technologies that is hosting in our conference today. I hope you learn a lot. So if you get any questions, please do keep posted in our LinkedIn group, and also please do post your questions in our GitHub repository as well. I will show you where you need to post your queries. So you can, if you have any queries in regarding to this session or in regards to any other session, you can post your queries there. Okay, so Cloud and Cloud is having 11 plus years of experience in training professionals across various technologies like DevOps and cloud technologies, automations, and many, many more. So if you have not subscribed to our newsletter, please do subscribe to our newsletter so that you don't miss any updates. And also we will be posting many job openings, all those things in our newsletter as well. And if you are not subscribed to our YouTube, please do subscribe so that whatever the upcoming sessions that we are going to be hosted, you will be notified accordingly. Okay. So thank you. Let's get started in today's session. So before starting, let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you all can able to see my screen. So I just wanted to show you this is the Cloud and Cloud GitHub in where you have a repository called Tech Queries. If you go into that, if you go into the issues, if you have whatever the new issue or whatever the queries you have, please create a new issue and post here so that any one of us from the Cloud and Cloud Tech community will make sure to answer you. Okay. And yeah, so today in this conference, I'm going to talk about one of the Azure service that is called as a Azure Traffic Manager profiles. Okay, and I'm going to show you how you can deploy your Azure web apps, and also I'm going to show how the traffic can be diverted to the different virtual machines based on the load. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so before starting the session, I wanted to give a short introduction about myself. I am 𝐂𝐥𝐨𝐮𝐝 𝐓𝐞𝐜𝐡𝐧𝐥𝐨𝐿 work with Cognizant Technology Solutions, Australia, and I have a 6+ years of IT experience in DevOps technologies. Okay, and also I am an Azure evangelist in Cloud and Cloud Tech community. So let's get started with the Azure service today. So before telling you about the Azure Traffic Manager, I want to let you know, as you know, that Azure Traffic Manager is obviously one of the load balancing method of the that is provided by the Azure, right? So why do we need the load balancer at the first place? So if you know, if we don't have the load balancer, what is the what is the failure that we are going to experience, right? So this Azure load balancer will make sure to distribute your workload, whatever the workload you're giving or whatever the traffic that is coming to you to use your web application that is hosted on your web servers, that will be equally distributed among your computing resources, right? So if you don't have any this load balancing techniques in place, then whatever the traffic that is coming, that might hit to one resource, and it might cause that resource to be overloaded and it may go down, right? So which indirectly affects your customers experience. So we need Azure balancing for distributing our workloads in a proper way, so that no resource can be left unutilized and no resource can be overutilized, right? So in overall, Azure is offering you usually four of the methods, four of the Azure balancing technologies. So you can go ahead and use any one of them. Okay, so the four loading balancing methods that Azure is offering you, that is Azure Front Door, Azure Traffic Manager, Azure Application Gateway, and Azure Load Balancer. So you might be thinking about which service, which technique or which method you wanted to use during which time, right? So it depends on your application, it depends on your requirement, and also it depends on your specifications, how you wanted to design your application and which users do you want to access your application as well. Okay, so if you think that if your users are if your application is going to be like public facing, then and if you expect that your application is going to be getting the HTTP or HTTPS traffic, and also you need to decide whether your application is going going to be hosted in particular one region, or it's going to be globally utilized. So based on all these scenarios, you will be deciding which load balancing method or technique that you can use for your project. Okay, as you can see here, you can use the Azure front door if you want to host your application. I mean, if you want to enable the load balancing globally, and if your recommended and your traffic expected traffic is HTTPS. Okay, in the same way, if you want to host your application globally, I mean, if you want this load balancing solution globally and your expected traffic is non-HTTPS, then you can go with the traffic manager. In the same way, this Azure application gateway and Azure load balancer, it is utilized not for the overall globe. I mean, it can't be used globally. It is particularly for one particular region. Okay, so if in one particular region, if you want to manage the load, if you want to divert the load to one virtual machine to another virtual machine, then you can use this application gateway as well as a Azure load balancer. Okay, this application gateway will be managing the load at the application layer level, whereas this Azure load balancer will be managing the traffic and distributing the load based on the network level network layer. Okay. So I wanted to give you a short overview of this is the actual. So let's say if you are the architect of your project, okay, if you have to provide the solution to your project and you have to provide the solution, which load balancing technique that you are going to implement in your project to handle your workload easily, right? If as being a solution architect, you should be careful about choosing the applications which you wanted to host. So for example, this is one of the architect plan. If you have satisfying all those conditions, you can select your load balancing accordingly. Okay, let's say if you are you have a web application. Okay, you have to consider whether your web application is going to be public facing or private application, like only the authorized users of internal your organizations only they are going to use, or the application is the public which anyone with the internet can use your application. So you have to decide whether your web application, which traffic is going to be hitting your web application, like HTTP or HTTPS, and also you need to decide whether your application is going to be public facing or a private facing, and also you need to decide your application is going to be deployed globally or it's going to be deployed in any particular region for any customers of that particular region. And also you need to decide whether do you want to enable this SSL offload or not. So based on the SSL offload is nothing but a network network link that is specifically created into one virtual network between your virtual machines or between your virtual machine scale sets. Okay, based on all these scenarios or all these specifications, you have to decide which load balancer you have to use. For example, as is shown in this architecture diagram, you can see once the web application is coming, if it is not a HTTP or HTTPS, if it is an internet facing application, public facing application, and if you want to deploy it globally, then you can select traffic manager along with the load balancer. So one more thing I wanted to let you know is you don't need to use only one particular load balancing method. So based on the solutions, you can combine in these four load balancing techniques to implement your solution as well. So like this, if you as you can see here, if your application is going to be deployed globally, then you can use along with the traffic manager, load balancer along with your traffic manager. If your application is not going to be deployed globally, and if you're only going to deploy in only one particular region, then you can deploy then you can use only Azure load balancer. Likewise, if your application is a web application, and if your application is not a public application, if it is a private application, then you can use the application gateway. If your application is a public application and if you want to deploy it globally, and if you want to enable SSL or not, based on that, as you can see here, based on that you can choose your load balancing techniques. Okay, so this is the overview of the plan. So if you are an architect, you can choose your project, load balancing solution for your project based on this architecture plan. This architecture plan is provided by the Azure itself. So you can go and see in your Azure website, or you can come to the Cloud and Loud GitHub, where I have mentioned all this step-by-step process. You can go there and find this architecture plan as well. Okay, you can see this and you can implement the same as like in your project. Okay, now let's get started with the Azure Traffic Manager. So out of these 4 load balancing techniques we have, Azure Load Balancer, Azure Application Gateway, Traffic Manager, and Azure Front Door, I'm going to explain about the Azure Traffic Manager today. Okay, let's see about that, and we will see how we can deploy our virtual machines and how we are distributing the load among them. Okay, so the main advantage of I can say that one of the advantage of going with this traffic manager profiles are it increase the application availability. For example, let's say if your application, if you have deployed in application in one region, okay, so and also you are deployed application in the other region, this Azure Traffic Manager will monitor your clients. I mean, whatever the regions are you have connected with this load balancer, it will check the status of that particular virtual machine or that region. It will make sure if something is down in that region, it will make sure to divert the traffic to the other region, so that whatever the customers they are trying to access your web application, they actually don't see any issue with their accessing your application. Okay, in the same way, the other advantage is improved application performance. That means, let's say I'm accessing that web application from Australia. Okay, so you have deployed the application globally in Australian region, in Asia region, in US region, all those things. So if the people accessing from that particular region, it will direct the traffic to that particular region virtual machines, so that they can be served easily without any latency delays. Okay, so you don't need to the traffic don't need to travel a long distances, so it will make sure whatever the client, I mean the request that is coming from the region, it will direct the traffic to that nearest, or if you have the web application in that particular region, it will serve from there itself. Okay, that is one of the another advantage. And another advantage of going with this traffic manager is service maintenance without downtime. For example, if you want to if you want to apply some maintenance, and if you want to complete the maintenance on your virtual machines, then what you can do is, even though your one virtual machine or one region is down, this load balancer will make sure to direct the traffic to the other regions, so that you will be served without any issues. Okay, in the same way, the other advantage of going with this Azure Traffic Manager is hybrid applications. Hybrid applications means, so when the traffic is coming, if you not only the Azure, if you have application on your own on premises, let's say, so if you have applications in on premises and we have attached it to the load balancer, so then this load balancer will make sure to distribute the traffic not only to the Azure regions, and also it will make sure to distribute the traffic to your on premises applications as well. So you can integrate both your on-premises and both as well as the applications in your Azure itself. Okay, it supports both. Okay, so before starting this Azure Traffic Manager, let me tell you about the main point about this Traffic Manager. This Azure Traffic Manager actually distributes the load among the different resources using their DNS. Okay, this is the DNS-based traffic load balancer, which uses the DNS of the client or the endpoints. It uses the DNS of the endpoints, and it will distribute the load across that endpoint easily based on the DNS you have provided for that endpoints. Okay, we will see this in detail now with the hands-on, so you can better understand. Okay, now let's go to the Azure portal. So this is my Azure portal. So first of all, to show that, I'm going to create one of the virtual machine. Okay, I'm going to the all resources, and I'm going to create one virtual machine. Okay, so as I don't have any resource group, I'm going to create one new resource group. Okay, so I have already explained in detail about each and every tab and what the options that you need to be selecting while creating a virtual machines based on the requirements do you have. So please, you can go ahead and watch this session. I have already given in a YouTube channel, in a Cloud and Loud YouTube. As of now, I'm just going to create one of the virtual machine. So I may not be able discussing this in very detail, but I will show you how you can create a virtual machine, how you can deploy it as a web server, and how you can use it. Okay, so now I have created one resource group that is called as a RG1. Now I'm going to give my virtual machine name as a server one. Okay, and I'm going to host this application, this server on East US region. Let me search for East US. Okay, so I'm going to host this server on East US region. Okay, I don't want any availabilities, so I have just disabled as I don't want any redundancy. Okay, so now here you can select any image of your operating system based on that are available in the Azure marketplace. So there are many products that are available here: Windows, Ubuntu, CentOS. So Windows and Linux both, there are many flavors that are available here. You can choose any that you are wishing to. Okay, so I am planning to go with Rocky Linux. Okay, I will go with the Rocky Linux 8.5. So I have selected my image. I'm going with the size. If you want to change the size, go to see all sizes and you can change the size. As I want to just show you the demo, I'm going with the basic instance, which is BS1. Okay. So now, if you, as you are using a Linux machine, if you want to go with creating a private and public keys, you can go with here and create one. But if you want to go with username and password to log in into the virtual machine, you can do that as well. So I'm going to use my username and password. I don't want to go with private and public keys as of now. So I'm just going to give one username. Okay. I have given my password. Okay, I have given my password now. In the disk, so there are three options you have. Premium disk is useful for the production purposes usually because it provides the high throughput and the high IOPS when compared to the other selections. But if you want to just practice, or if you want to use for the dev or test purpose, you can go with the standard SSD, or it's non-critical. If you are having a non-critical workloads, then you can host with a standard HDD. Okay, as it's just a demo, I'm going with the standard HDD. Okay, I'm not changing any encryption types for that. So network, so when I'm creating the virtual machines, this network is automatically getting created in my region, in my resource group which I have provided. Okay, I have not created it as I don't have any virtual networks already available in this resource group or in the region. It has automatically picked up one virtual network. Okay, I'm going with the same network. Okay, I'm not enabling anything here. Okay, I'm not doing anything here as well. So let me go advanced tags and review and create. So it validating your all the prerequisites that you have given. If it gets success, it will start creating. Okay, let's wait for the validation to get success. Okay, the validation is passed now. Now I'm going to create my virtual machine. So I have done nothing. I have just created one of the virtual machine using the Rocky Linux operating system, and I'm going to make it as a web server. Okay, so I have started the deployment. So meanwhile the deployment gets finished, I wanted to show the load balancing, right? So I'm going to create another virtual machine as well. So I'm going to open the other window. Yeah. So now let me go ahead and create one more virtual machine. Okay, we go to create virtual machine. As I have already created one resource group, I'm going to use the same. This one I'm going to name it as a server 2. And this time I'm going to change the region because I wanted to show you how the traffic manager actually send the client request to the different resources that are placed in the different regions. Okay, so that's why I'm going with the another region. So when creating the last virtual machine, I have gone with the East US, right? Here I'm selecting the West US. Okay, I don't want any redundancy, so I'm leaving it as the same as the image. I want a Rocky Linux, so I will be changing my operating system image. If you want, you can choose anything you want here. Okay, I'm going with the Rocky Linux. Okay. Not Linux. Yes, select this one. Okay, so probably it's not displaying, but it has selected it. I will show you when it is getting created. Okay, so the size, I'm not changing anything. I'm leaving it as it is. So I want the username and password here as well. So I'm going with my username, admin user, and I'm going to set my password to log in into this virtual machine. Okay, so here also, as just a demo, I'm going with the standard HDD. So as you see here, as we are creating this virtual machine in the same resource group, but in the different region, right? I have chosen the same resource group RG1, but I am creating this virtual machine in the West US region, right? So that's why it has created in the same network, but it has allocated a different subnet to this virtual machine. Okay, I'm not going to change anything else. Sorry. Go to the management, go to advanced, review and create. So it will validate your virtual machine and it will create your virtual machine. Okay, let's wait. Okay, create. So the second virtual machine deployment is also started now. Now let's go back to our first resource. If I go to the notifications tab, as you can see here, my first virtual machine has created. Now, if you click on the go to resource, it has taken me to my server one, which was created in the East US region, as you can see here, right? So now this is the public IP address of my virtual machine. If you want to connect the console of this server, you can directly go to the Bastion service available here in the portal itself. You can deploy this Bastion service. This Bastion service is useful for you to get the console of this virtual machine in the browser itself. Okay, but it will take some time. But if you want, you can do like this as well. Okay, meanwhile, let's see the status of our second virtual machine. It's still in the deployment. Okay, let's come back. So I have enabled the Bastion service. Let's see. Okay, so what I will do is until my second virtual machine gets created, as my first virtual machine is already available and as it's taking some time, I'll go with the PuTTY. So you can connect to the console of your Linux virtual machine using PuTTY or Mobile Extreme, whichever the tool you're comfortable with. Okay, so I have already PuTTY in my laptop. I mean, as I was already using it, I'm going with that. Okay, so we need to provide the public IP address, which we have got in the Azure portal here. So copy that public IP address, paste in the PuTTY, and connect it. Accept. So it will ask you for login. So provide the credentials which you have given while creating this virtual machine. Okay, so I'm giving the same credentials. Now I have logged in into my console of my first virtual machine, which is a server one, as you can see here the name. Okay, let us see. Our second virtual machine is also deployed now. Go to this, as you can see, server 2. So this is the public IP address of my second virtual machine, which is hosted on the West US region. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the console of this second virtual machine as well. As I shown you, if you want, you can go and enable this Bastion service to access this console in the browser itself, or as it takes some time, I'm going with PuTTY as PuTTY itself. Okay, so I'm going to copy the second virtual machine's IP address and I'm going to paste in my PuTTY. Open. So now accept. I'm going to provide the credentials which I have given while creating this virtual machine. Okay, so we have now created two virtual machines and we have we are accessing the console of that two virtual machines now. So as of now, it's just a virtual machines. We have not set up any role to this virtual machines, right? We have not made it as a web server or a web server role to this. I mean, we have not applied this web server role to this virtual machine. I mean, we have not applied or we have not installed our web server yet, right? It's just a plain virtual machine. You can set up any role you want. You can set up it as a database server. You can set up it as a web server. You can set up it as however you like. Okay, so as I want to show you how the web server is deployed, and I want to show you the traffic management. So I'm just going to set this role as a web server. Okay, let me go to my server one. So this is the console of my server one, and this is the console of my server two. As you can see here, the name. Okay, so now once we have logged in, let me go as a sudo user, because whatever the commands that you are going to execute, so I'm going to do as a root user, super user. Okay, so that's why. Okay, so now I can execute any commands here. So when you have actually selected your image for the operating system, along with your image, there will be some packages like there will be some application packages that will be automatically got deployed with your image itself. Okay, so what I wanted to do is I just wanted to install one of the web server application. So now I'm going to install Apache server Apache server application here, Apache server service here. If you want to use Nginx, you can do that as well. Okay, so I am okay with installing this Apache server, so I'm going to install that. So install httpd -1. So if you want to install the Nginx, so give the same command as yum install nginx. So nginx. Okay, so you can give the same like installing the Nginx web server. As I want to install the Apache server, I'm just going with the httpd. Okay, just give enter until it installs. Let install the same in our virtual machine 2 as well. Okay, so now our virtual machine, we are downloading one of the web server application onto our virtual machine. Okay, sorry. Let's wait for a few minutes. It will take approximately like 2 to 3 minutes to install your application. As you can see, started here in the server one. It's installing all the required streams, and it's installing my Apache server application. Okay, let's wait for 2 more minutes. As you can see here, our server 2 is also started installing the web server now. Okay, so our web server has successfully installed on our virtual machine server 1, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start server. Enable HTTPD. So this, I'm going to enable this Apache server service. Okay, I have enabled it now, and I'm going to start HTTPD. Okay, so you can just give as a systemctl enable HTTPD. So HTTPD is used for any Red Hat enterprise Linux distributions. So the Apache server service is mentioned as a HTTPD here. Okay, so systemctl enable HTTPD will actually enable your HTTP Apache server service. In the same way, if you want to start the service, you can give as a systemctl start HTTPD. Okay, it will start your service. In the same way, I'm going to do the same in my mission 2 as well. Okay, so now in the mission 2, we have our app server installed. So now I'm going to enable HTTP. Yes, enable it, and now systemctl start HTTPD. So now I'm starting the app service. Okay, so now I have installed the app server and I have started that service on my Linux virtual machines. So if you are using the Windows virtual machine, what you can do is you can directly go and RDP that virtual machine, and you can go to the Google Chrome browser or Internet Explorer. So any virtual machine that you are creating, that will be automatically connected with the internet. So you can go and download the required packages, I mean required application from the internet itself, as you normally do in your laptop. Okay, so and also if you want to set up that virtual machine, that Windows virtual machine, as a web server using the IIS, Internet Information Services, then you can find it in the default servers in the server manager. If you want to, if you go to the roles and uh, if you want to go and set up the roles, then that web server IIS is automatically will be available to you on the Windows operating systems. Okay, so as I have taken this Linux virtual machine, like this, we have to install whichever the web application you wanted to. Okay, I have installed this Apache server here. Now I've started the service, done. So, but I don't have anything here to see whether my service has started or not, right? So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to check systemctl, tell me the status of uh, my service. This HTTPD. If you click here, as you can see, active. So it says it's running and it shows it has started this Apache HTTP server. In the same way, I'm going to check the status in my virtual machine one as well. Systemctl, tell me the status of my app server. As you can see here, it is also active and running, and it is also shows that it has started the Apache HTTP server. Okay, so now we have installed and we have started the service, and our virtual machines are up and running as a web servers now. Now what we will do is, okay, so what I'm going to do before that is I'm going to disable the firewalls, because when you want to use these virtual machines data from the outside, I mean from the public your internet, so there might be some firewalls which is going to stop accessing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable the firewalls. Systemctl disable firewall, the semicolon. If you want to give the multiple commands, just use the semicolon. So, and the other command I'm going to give is systemctl stop firewall. So I'm disabling and stopping the firewall services on this virtual machine. Okay, I just want to do the same here as well. Okay, so I'm going to systemctl disable firewall and also stop firewall. Okay, so I have disabled and stopped the firewall on my both of the virtual machines now. So I'm going to echo some of the message on my server one, because I wanted to show you the difference between while the traffic is routed. I wanted to show you how the traffic is getting routed to server one and also to the server two. Okay, so because of that, I'm going to echo some message here on the server one. I'm going to mention as echo. What I wanted to echo, okay, let me tell it as let's say learning is learning is the key to success. Let me host this message, and I want to redirect this message onto my root directory where www html and index.html. Okay, I want to redirect this message onto my root directory in this file. Okay, and I'm going to give the same echo message I wanted to give in my second server is I wanted to give some other message because I want to show you that difference. Let me give you as a um, don't give up even you fail. Okay, and let me redirect this also onto the root directory of that same virtual machine. Okay, I'm going to do the same. Okay, so I have echoed some message. I have echoed one message which is called as a learning is the key to success on my server 1, and I have echoed another message which is called as a don't give up even you fail, that is on my server 2. Okay, now we will see how we can access this. I mean, how the public can access our virtual machines and how they can. So usually once these app servers are installed, the developers can go and host their web applications onto this web server so that whatever the users going to access these DNS or the public IP address, they will be seeing your application or the web page that you have designed and hosted on these web applications. As I don't have any, I have just echoed some sample message to show you the difference, and I'm going to give this in the load balancer. Okay, so now we have created 2 virtual machines. We have installed the app servers and we have started the app servers, and we have echoed some message to as a sample. Okay, so now let me minimize both these consoles. Now this is my server 1, right? Now I'm just going to create one load balancer, which I'm going to use this time as a traffic manager. Okay, so if you can search as a traffic manager, so you will get one service that is called as a traffic manager profiles. So click on that. So as I told you earlier, so Azure is actually offering a 4 types of load balancing techniques, right? As you see in the left pane, it has application gateway, front door, load balancer, and the traffic manager. So you can design any one or a combination of any based on your requirement or based on your specifications of your application, as I have shown earlier. Okay, so now as I wanted to show you the example of the traffic manager, I'm going to create one of the traffic manager instance. Let me go ahead and click on create. Here, give your name, give some name to your load balancer. I'm giving as LB load balancer. And this is the routing method. So routing method, you can decide whichever you want. I will explain you how you can, what it's actually doing when you select what. We will explain, we will discuss in some time. As of now, I'm just going with, let's say, priority, and I'm choosing the same application. I'm going to choose my resource group. Okay, and I'm going to create my traffic manager. This is actually very simple. If you want, you can go ahead and try in your own POC lab and see how the traffic is distributed to the different virtual machines that is in the different regions. And also you can use the other load balancing techniques, how the traffic is distributing among your virtual machines or among your virtual machine scale sets, using those virtual machines, which is applicable to the regional level as well. Okay, now I think our deployment is success. So my traffic manager, which I have given a name as a load balancer LB, has created now. So now if I go to these endpoints, so now if I click on add, I can go ahead and add my virtual machines. Whichever I have created in the different regions, I can add my virtual machines here as one of the endpoint. Okay, so but before doing that, as I told you earlier, Azure Traffic Manager is a DNS-based load balancer, right? It can access or it can distribute the load only using your DNS of that particular endpoint. So if you remember, we have not selected any, we have not set it up any DNS here, right? So this is the server 1. If you go to the overview tab, you will be having an option called a DNS name, which is not configured here. So if you click on that, you can choose any one of the name. Let's say I'm going to give it as server 1. Yes. Okay, so I'm giving it as server 1, yes, and save. Okay, so in the same way, I'm going to my server 2. where the DNS is not configured. So I'm going to configure, because this load balancer is going to use or redirect the traffic to these virtual machines only based on the DNS, because it's a DNS based load balancer. Okay, so let me give it as server 2. Yes. Okay, probably it has already utilized. Already available. I have given some name and I'm saving it. Now let's see. Yes, our public IP address, the DNS has set it up. Okay. Now, if you go to this, your server 1, and if you go to the overview, refresh. As you can see here, earlier it was like not configured, right? As you can see here, now it has one DNS, which is called as a server 1 as, which I have given a name. You can do your dynamic or static DNS based on your requirement. Okay. So here, let's see whether the server 2 has created. I hope it's done. Now let's go back to our server 2. So it's not showing. Let's refresh. And it should show the DNS. Yes, right. So as you can see, this is the server 2 and its DNS is set up now. Now I'm coming to my load balancer and I'm adding Azure endpoint. Okay. So I'm adding an endpoint. I'm going to give that name as, let's say, server 1, because I'm going to add my server 1 first into the load balancer. So as your target resource, you can choose the app service, you can choose this cloud service. If you have the app services created in your Azure portal, you can choose the app service and you can add your app services. So this load balancer will make sure to distribute the traffic to your app services. Because I don't have app service, I have created the virtual machines from the base, so I'm going to use this public IP address. Okay, so if you scroll down, this both server 1 and server 2 IP address is showing here, so I'm going to select server 1. Okay, here priority you can give it as a 1 or 2. Okay, I will tell you what is that priority and how it will act. Okay, let's see in some time. As of now, I'm leaving it as a 1. Okay, remember that. So go ahead and add. So I have added my server 1 to my traffic manager, which is a load balancer. Okay, so now its priority is 1. Now I'm going and adding my second virtual machine as well. So I'm giving a name as server 2. As it's also not an app service, it's just a VM server I have created. I'm going to choose a public IP address. And here, as we have already added server 1 IP address to this load balancer, it's now showing only the server 2. So go ahead and select that. So it automatically has taken the priority as 2. So I'll tell you why. And now I'm going to add this endpoint as well. Okay. So now our both virtual machines has been added here. Now if you refresh, it's still checking the endpoint status. This load balancer, this traffic manager is also monitors the health of your endpoint, and if anyone is down, then it will automatically redirect your traffic to the other endpoints available. Okay, it's checking the status of the endpoint. It has not detected it. Okay, so until then, okay, so if you remember, while creating the virtual machine, we have not actually enabled the HTTP port for network security group to access the traffic from the public internet, right? So because we have set up these virtual machines as a web server. So to access your web server, your port 80 should be enabled so that any HTTPS traffic should be able to access that your web server. Okay, so but while creating this virtual machine, we have not allowed the port. We have just allowed the port of SSH 22. So as you can see here, this is your server. Come to the networking. As you see here, this is the network security group that is enabled. So this virtual machine will allow the traffic to your virtual machines only through these ports. As you can see, only SSH port 22E2 is enabled. But as being a web server, to access that web server, you need port 80 to be enabled, right? So I'm going to add one rule. Let's say I want HTTP traffic to be allowed, and I'm going to name it as a port 80. So what I am doing is I am adding a port 80 to my virtual machine server 1. The same way I'm going to add to my server 2. Go to the server 2, go to the networking. If you see here also only SSH port 22 is only enabled, right? So now go and add inbound port rule. I want to allow HTTP, allow or deny, so I want to allow, so the same. And if you want to give some name, give it, that's it. So by this, you are allowing the traffic to your virtual machines through the port 80 as well. Okay. Done. So we have added the rules. Now let's see our load balancer. Okay, can you see why it has showing it as a degraded? Because we have enabled our virtual machines. I mean, we have enabled the port 80 just now, right? It has not applied here there yet. So let us wait for a few minutes until it detects actually the status of your virtual machines. Okay. So to do that, to happen that fast, as it's a demo, I'm just going into the configuration into my load balancer. I'm just reducing the interval here. So this probing interval will tell you how fast it should detect the status of your endpoints. Okay, so I'm going to reduce this interval so that it detects my virtual machines very fast. Yes. Okay. Save. Done. So now, as you see here, now it has detected our virtual machines is online because we have allowed that port 18 now, and I have reduced the time to detect to get the status of that virtual machines as well. So it shows the online now, right? So now, if you go to the overview of the load balancer, this is the DNS, this is the URL, right? If I copy this URL, if I go and paste in my browser, this is my browser, okay? This is my laptop browser, which it's like I am now a public user who trying to access that web application, which that URL. So if you see here, it has directly redirected me to the server 1, where I have echoed the message as a learning is the key to success, right? Likewise, if your developer is going to host their web applications, that web application or that web page will be displayed to the user here. So I just wanted to show this. So I have not done anything. I have just copy paste the URL of the load balancer. It directly redirected to the server 1, right? I will tell you why. Now, if you come to your load balancer, if you come to the configuration, so if you remember, while creating this load balancer, we have selected this routing method, right? I have selected the priority one. What happening with these different routing methods is, so if you select this priority one, it means that, so in the endpoints, so you have, while attaching these endpoints, it has asked you to give the priority, right? I have given this as a 1, I have given this as a 2. It means that whatever the traffic that is coming through the public internet, that will be priority, I mean, as it is having a priority 1, that will be sent to your server 1. So once your server 1 is having a full capacity, or it has reached the maximum amount of limit, then your traffic will be redirect to your server 2. But usually in the production, all your servers will be hosting the same web application, right? So your user won't see any difference which application or which server they are accessing. To show, I just wanted to show that difference to you. That's why I have given or echoed the different messages here. So likewise, if I have a 1 and 2, right? So now as the server 1 is having a 1 priority, that's why my direct, when I am giving here, when I am searching through the URL, it's directly taking it to me server 1. So now what I want to do is, now let me go to this server 1 and stop this. Let's say my virtual machine is down, or let's say some my virtual machine has the region where my virtual machine is hosted has gone down completely. Okay, so what I should not do anything. My load balancer should be able to detect the status of that server going down, and it should directly redirect the user to the next available server, which is server 2, right? So now let's wait until this virtual machine server 1 gets stopped. Okay, it's running. So meanwhile, I will explain you what are the different routing methods. Okay, so if you go to the configuration, priority is something like, based on the priority, the traffic will be sent to your virtual machines. Okay, if you want to go with the performance, it will detect which virtual machine is having a high performance, so the traffic will be sent to the high performance server first, then the low performance based on that. Like that. So based on that, a priority, based on that, it will distribute the traffic. If you want to go to the weighted is nothing but, let's say if you have 2 or 3 virtual machines, then your first request will be sent to your server 1, second request will be sent to your server 2, your third request will be sent to the server 3, again fourth request will be sent to the server 1. Like that, it will distribute the incoming request to the different servers at the same amount of time. Okay, it's distribute. You can do that with weighted one. And the same way, as we have seen now, priority. So whichever the priority we have set, based on that priority, it will send the traffic to that virtual machine. Likewise, if you want to select the geographic, so you can, well, if you want to go to the geographic, you can select the geographic area which you wanted to give to that particular endpoint. What happens is, so for example, if I have given the geographic area as Australia, then the people whoever accessing from the Australia will be served first, then only the people from the other regions will be served. So based on these routing methods, whatever you require based on your requirement or specifications, based on your applications, you can select your routing method. Okay, I'm not going to change anything, I'm just going with the priority one. So I have just wanted to explain about that. So let's see if our virtual machine 1 has stopped. So yes, the status is stopped and delocated now. So now if you come to your load balancer and refresh it, it should be able to automatically detect that our server 1 is down now, right? Go to the endpoints. As you can see here, our server 1 has degraded because it has stopped and it has not available now. So now, even though still the priority 1, but it is degraded, this load balancer should be able to detect that and should be able to send your traffic to the server 2, right? So this is the URL which I have copy pasted earlier of the load balancer, right? Let me go and refresh this. Can you see? It has automatically taken me to the second server where I have echoed the message as don't give up even you fail. So like this, it will make sure based on the server endpoints status and their health status, and it will continuously monitor whether it is online or not. Based on that and based on the routing methods you have selected, it will distribute your traffic among all the virtual machines, among all the regions or in the same region you have chosen. Okay, so this is the one of the example based of the traffic manager. So what I have done is, if any one of you have wanted to create these virtual machines, and if any one of you wanted to try this, you can go ahead and try this. If you wanted to know that commands which I have given in the virtual machines while installing the web server, and if you wanted to go by step, I have already make a note on Cloud on Loud GitHub as well. If you go to the Cloud on Loud GitHub, you will be finding one repository. I have made it as a public. This is the Azure Traffic Manager. If you go inside that, if you go to this file, you will find a step-by-step process. You can follow that as well if you wanted to try in your own lab. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed today's session. I hope please try in your own POC lab and let us know in our comment section, or also please let us know in our Cloud and Love LinkedIn group how you have got. What are the challenges you have faced and how the output was for you. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed the session today. Um Please stay tuned to our Cloud and Loud channel, because we are going to bring more initiatives, and I'm going to take more sessions on Azure DevOps and more Azure services, which will be useful for you. So please stay tuned to our Cloud and Loud channel. We are going to host many technical sessions in the future. As I told you earlier, please do subscribe to our newsletters and the YouTube channel. And please stay tuned our Cloud and Loud. We are going to bring more sessions on the Azure services, more live sessions, so you can do with us and you can discuss with us, and we can discuss among ourselves, and we can do, if any issues you are facing, we can do and we can fix it as well. Okay, please don't forget to post any queries you have in our Cloud and Loud GitHub repository, which I have shown you earlier. And until then, take care. I'll see you later. Bye.